Hey everybody, this is Cody Knight 22 here, and today I'm coming at you with episode number 9 of Cody Talks Fanfiction. And everybody, I am really excited about this episode in particular because the ever so wonderful Dinas Emrys agreed to come on and do an interview for Premium Well. So everybody say hi to Dinas. And Dinas, you say hi back as well.
Yeah. Hello. I'm hoping I can live up to the intro.
Yeah, you know, I like to do intros big. So for those of you that do not remember or did not watch that episode and are watching the interview, God, words are really hard. And are watching the interview as opposed to the other one, I have covered Premium Well before. It is currently, I believe, the 26th most followed story on the website last time I checked.
Which website?
Fanfiction.net.
Okay.
I know that you host it somewhere else as well, but I honestly I don't bother to check because I know what the only reason is why you host it there.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later, but
Yeah.
once again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Not a problem. I fortunately for the time difference, I have time, so that's good.
Yeah, and it is. I would like to go ahead and clarify. It is about 15 minutes away from being 3 o'clock in the afternoon for you. It is about 15 minutes from being 11 o'clock at night for me. So it's an interesting time difference, which also why you see I have video. He does not due to some camera issues. I don't want to record anything else. But if you'll see that I have a video going on for me, it's really dark in my room. So I just have my terrible fan for lighting. It is my fan that has the lamps on it. I'm done. Anyways. So... is there anything else that you would like to add on that I left out?
No, I think that covers pretty much everything.
All right, I only know of your Premium Well, by the way, in terms of your stories.
No, that's fine. I started writing fan fiction when I was in how back far was that? Early high school, maybe late middle school. I can't remember, but I wrote a couple stories for a video game or something that I was interested in, and then a couple anime things. And for the most part, I never really got around to finishing. I finished the first one, and then I never really got around to finishing the second one just because I got sucked into drama stuff, and I ended up directing a play or two, and it just got really complicated and time-consuming. And I didn't end up having time to write, unfortunately. So, plus, I took a look back at those now, and it's the usual thing where you see the things that you worked on when you were a lot younger, and you just can't stand them. So frankly, I haven't deleted them yet. I probably should. But I would definitely not suggest people go through and read those. Premium Well is probably the first thing that I made recently that's any good, if at all. So and that's by my standards at all.
A lot of people would go ahead and say that that at all statement is very, very much so not very justifying to the story. I personally really love this story. It was a top 10 for me for a while.
Oh, thanks. I definitely admit it was very. I don't know how to put this. It was not. It's always nice getting reviews or feedback or anything, especially on something like fanfiction.net, where you can get a lot of people giving you really good criticism, which is one of the best things.
And then a lot of people like YOLO. Your story sucks, bro.
Yeah, well, that's not incredibly helpful, but it is kind of... It's nice. You get... There's not really a like feature as much. There are favorites and stuff like that, but...
Follows favorites, yeah.
There's not really a way to say that I really wasn't jiving this story or something like that. So it is actually kind of nice when people say, man, your story sucks, because you get a feeling of who disliked the story enough to say that they didn't like it. As opposed to people who just didn't like it enough and only read part of it or only read a little bit of it.
I'm going to say thank you for actually saying that, because thinking back to it now, probably should have added in how do you deal with negative criticism on my list of questions. Didn't do it, so saving me a little bit here.
No, it's fine. If it's valid negative criticism, especially if it's constructive negative criticism, I try to address it. Your podcast had a good point about one of the things, and I talked to you a little bit about it, and I assume we'll get to that later. But other people have done similar things, especially with typos. If somebody says they found a typo in mine, I will immediately go back and fix it. It's totally valid.
I'm the exact opposite.
It's really helpful. It's like, cool, thanks. I fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm glad to go fix it. By the way, is this explicit okay?
Yeah, I
Okay.
probably curse more than I should, given my
Okay.
age, but, I don't care.
Just wanted to check. But yeah, no, I'm, I, I, I love criticism, whether it's positive or negative, and honestly, negative or criticism in general is helpful because it shows what you need to fix. If people, I love it when people say, or you get a post that just says, "I really like your story," or "I like this," or "I like this particular thing about it." That's great because it shows what people respond to. But the criticism where people go either "I like this but" or "I don't like this and this is why" is the most useful thing that you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. That is
Yep.
the most appreciate. That's the most appreciative thing that I am
Yeah.
as another author on the website that you can get is whenever people leave these really huge and long reviews to it. I often discount some of the things that they say. I'll be honest, I'm bad about that, but it's always fun to get those.
Yeah. I try to respond if somebody either had a question or had a really good comment. Um, I try to respond as well as possible. The little tiny ones I don't usually respond to, but
Yeah.
if they're longer ones, I tend to as much as possible.
hmm So I'm going to now get onto the list of questions that I have prepared, and just so that you know ahead of time, I have 17 questions, and I try to get as many community ones as I possibly could.
There were
I
community questions?
I posted. I went through every single review on your story, hoping to find a question that was I could actually ask you.
Uh-huh.
Let's be clear, there wasn't a single one that I could. Or
Most of
one.
them I've actually already responded to, too.
I mean, even like the ones that were like an actual question, it was mostly about. So, is this going to happen? Is Adam? And I'm
There's a
also
couple
going
of
to.
those.
Yeah, I'm also going to
Yeah.
go ahead and say this: if you have not finished Premium Well, stop watching this video right now because I'm don't care. I'm going to go ahead and say that this episode will not be at all concerned about spoilers like the other ones are because I have the author on with me. So I'm going to assume that you have finished this story.
I was gonna say, if you haven't finished Premium Well, join the club because I haven't either. I have been really bad about updating it lately. I did, or I. It started when I had nothing to do for a while in the early part of December, and I started churning out one or two small-ish chapters a week.
Yeah, I remember just seeing like, oh, hey, look, there's this new story, Premium Well. How did it get up to how did it get up to 7 chapters?
Yeah.
Like that was my memory of it.
Which I think is one of the reasons why it got as many likes or follows as it did
Yeah.
initially, was because it stayed at the top of the recent. Like, I think the automatic search function is for recent stories.
Absolutely. Yeah. Recent. Although I will say this, it
Or
is
most recently
recent
updated.
K through teen, is what the
Yeah, I know.
automatic one is.
I think mine is. I know mine's in the
Yours,
M category.
yours is not teen.
It is not. Even in the M category, the automatic is by recent.
Yeah.
So I think the reason that it was one of the first ones, or it got a lot of attention, some attention initially, was because of the fact that it was up at the top of the recent list for 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
All right. But now going back to the list of
No,
questions
still,
that I
sorry.
have, we'll get off on a lot of tangents. I'm sure that's the whole point of this episode. I will say this: the whole point is to get off on tangents because this is what I'm here for. All right. So first question is, how did you first find RWBY?
Oh, just learn about it?
Yeah, how did you first hear about the show? Whether it was as a prior Rooster Teeth fan, as a Crunchyroll member, however.
I used to live in Seattle, and I was in line for Halo 4. We were, in case, I assume that everybody knows this, but Microsoft and Bungie, well, Bungie used to, but 343 do big events whenever they release a game. And for the last 2 years, not, sorry, 2 years ago, anyway, the release of a game tended to coincide with the end of a season for RWBY. The season before last ended on, or 2 seasons before last, something along those lines. Ended
Season 10.
on. It's either season 10 or 9.
It was
season
10.
9.
Try-
No,
I'm-
sorry, it's another year, something like that.
Oh.
I think it's season 9. Season 9 ended on the same day that Anniversary got released.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I think 10 ended on the same night that season 10 got released, or sorry, that Halo 4 got released.
Mhm.
So on both those times, I was in line at the Microsoft store as part of the big launch day celebration. So I was either getting to try out a couple little bits of Halo 4, Halo Legendary Edition, getting the stuff signed by the groups, which is really cool. If you ever get a chance, totally go to a launch party like that, especially if it's in your area. But because you get to meet really cool people.
Yep.
Some of the devs, it's very nice to meet them. Plus, they give you cool stuff, which is always nice. But no, I knew that Red vs. Blue was going to end that night, and I hadn't watched it yet. And I and a couple other people pulled out phones, and we were watching it as soon as it got posted. And we were just watching the end of Red vs. Blue, the last episode of Season 10, on the phones. And then, lo and behold, at the end, there's this trailer for a new show.
RWBY. I avoided that red trailer like the plague. I remember that. Lots of feels at the end of Season 10 as well of Red vs. Blue. Good way to hear about it. So this is going to be the first user-submitted question. And you did kind of go over this, but this is, I guess, is more specifically for Premium Well. And this is from Elfin Lied, just to clarify. What made you decide to write it? Fanfiction takes a lot out of someone's time. Why did you decide to write RWBY fanfiction?
I was bored. I needed something to do. There was a dearth of video games that I wanted to play at the time. There was a dearth of books to read. I was just in a position where I I just didn't have a ton to do, and I wanted something to do, and I had written something else earlier. It became a chapter in that story.
Tequila and Roses, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I wrote Tequila and Roses, and then I was reading through it, and I found that it with a little bit of adaptation, it would work pretty well for RWBY. And I started thinking about it more, and I decided I kind of wanted to write something, and why not? I wasn't doing anything else, and I wasn't doing anything else creative at the time, just given the current situation where I live, and I just figured that it would be something to do, and I wanted something creative to do, and it let me practice writing. It's something I wanted to do. I didn't do Nano. That was the other thing, is I never got around to doing Nano, and I felt guilty, so I did my own little thing.
Guilt is always a good motivator. All right,
Guilt is a great motivator.
It absolutely is. By the way, the next 4 questions, I ordered these in like a timeline fashion of when these questions would make sense in terms of the timeline of everything else. It just so happened to be that all 4 user questions wound up in the same plane. That's not... So this one is going to be from Knives for Cash. By the way, Elfin Lied, author of Snowy Vale. And this one is going to be from Knives for Cash, author of A Fuck Ton of Things. What, if any, story did you draw inspiration from?
Oh.
This transcends RWBY fanfiction, by the way, if it's anything else.
First of all, hey Knives. He's posted on the fanfiction page he's posted on the archive one. So I've not really chatted, but I've posted back and forth with him a little bit.
He also posts stories all the time. He has like 60-something stories.
Yeah, there's a lot, and that guy's got a lot of what's the word?
One-shots.
One-shots too, but that's not what I was looking for. Like just creative work ethic. Like he just constantly is working. Yeah, I can't do that. I don't know. I read a lot, and that kind of is what mostly inspires my writing style. In that, over the years, I've gotten into sort of a good, not necessarily good, but a stable way of ordering how I write. And mostly that's like sentence shape and how paragraphs end up. Thematically and that kind of stuff, it's more or less what I want to be interested in. I think part of the reason why the Yuri section of RWBY is so popular is that there is a little bit of a dearth of strong male characters, and a little bit, and that's one of the reasons why.
2.
Well, yeah, and even then, Ren's very quiet, and you kind of know where that's gonna go.
1.
No, it's not that.
I just going lower on the number.
No, you just know. Even if Ren is, I'm not saying Ren's not an interesting character. It's just that it's not a question of his, like a character trait of his. He hasn't had a ton of screen time. He had a great fight, but he hasn't had a ton of screen time. And when he does, he's almost always with Nora.
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons why that's basically a canon pairing
Yeah.
among most people.
But they're not together together.
Yeah, they're not together, but they're together.
It's a great line.
Yeah, it's also pretty true. But I don't. I think it came down to the fact that I'd read some RWBY fan fiction, and I wanted to write something myself. I think I just wanted to write, and it's kind of gone from there. Um, I wanted something that really I react better with older characters than I do with younger ones, which is why there's been that age jump, along with the fact that it allows me to have
6
alcohol.
years, I want to say.
It's the proper age jump for wherever you are currently reading the story to
That's
make
true.
them eligible for alcohol.
So that's 6 years for me, actually.
That's how it works. So if you're in a country with a lower alcohol content, the characters are younger.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's basically because I don't really care about them being. I I wanted them to be of age so I can just deal. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with the problem of having to deal with illicit drinking or anything like that. And I don't want to deal with the thematic elements of it. I just
Because
don't
that
wanna
never happens anywhere.
Oh, it's not that it doesn't happen. It's that there's a different attitude you have to take when you're writing about something like that, and I don't want to deal with it.
Fair.
Which is why I just jumped past it. But yeah, it's been a couple years. They're older, and I figured that that would be more fun for me to deal with, just because older characters speak more to me than younger ones. And that's one of the reasons why the fact that RWBY was set in a school environment wasn't a incredibly interesting part for me. Not watching the show, but when I found out that it's going to be set in a school, like, oh, really? And it doesn't help that I've seen a decent amount of school-based anime, and not all of it is very good. And even the ones that are good in a certain way, there's just a lot of it tends to be very harem-based, and I'm glad that it hasn't gone in that direction, but it's been interesting. So
Now, I'm going
sorry,
to.
what was the question again? Because I forgot.
I think you.
What made me want to write?
What, if any, stories did you draw inspiration from?
Right. Castle, it responded a little bit of it, not necessarily the procedural aspect of the show, but the romantic relationships between characters. Something about the idea of, and for on it, just those sorts of relationships in general, just the idea of two people who have feelings for each other, and if it takes them a little while to get used to it, it takes them a little while, or they are just open to it. I can't really specifically point to anything specific because I've read too many things, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a great problem to have.
Yeah,
Now,
it is.
Next question. Once again, it's another one. And this one you kind of touched upon earlier, but keep this limited to premium well. For this one, this is going to be more limited to premium well.
Okay.
What were your first ideas in making the story? Did those ideas start out as something different and morph into new and end up being the final product of what they are now? And that's from Pain Crimson on YouTube. I have no idea what this guy does because it's on YouTube and I don't know Fanfiction account. But keep it kind of limited to premium well, premium well. And talk about the process though, because you did mention Tequila and Roses was like the starting area. So
Tequila and Roses was something that I wrote just as a fiction exercise because I wanted something that really touched on the feeling of, and it's something that everyone can kind of get, is the fact that you're attracted to somebody who isn't attracted to you, or, and to be perfectly honest, it's unrealistic in a lot of ways. The idea of being like the friend to that person who you've always been attracted to, they're almost always not attracted to you back.
And you're almost always not attracted to them as well.
Yeah, that's true. I think I just wanted something that actually fulfilled the trope of, this person's been really nice to this other person, like, the kind of best friend to this person, despite the fact that they've liked them for a long time, and that just ended up being what I wrote. And it got half finished, and it got shoved somewhere because I never got around to it. And then I was looking at it, and I just decided to finish it, and RWBY would be fun, and Weiss and RWBY folded best into that when I was writing it. And then from there on, my process for writing mostly comes down to me writing a scene. It's less about an overarching plot. I'm trying to do that now, which is one of the reasons why I haven't written anything lately. Is because I actually have to have plot.
Damn.
Yeah, it's rough. But especially for chapters, I start with a scene, and there's something that gets in my head of this is what I want to happen, and then I have to work out from there. It's how does that end? How does that start? How do they get in that position? So the first thing after Tequila and Roses would have been Yang at the bar.
Yeah.
And it was just bits and pieces of Yang at the bar with the other girls, how they behaved, and then I personally slide on the Bumblebee of the One True ships and the One True pairings.
I just say, why not both?
Yeah, well, no. It's I like I like Bumblebee and I like White Rose. Although I really do like Monochrome too. So
Monochrome is another really good one.
yeah, there's a lot of good Monochrome stuff. But Yang doesn't get enough love. Yang doesn't even get any. Yang does not even get enough love in the series itself. She's not
Yet.
Yeah, she.
Those boobs need more screen time.
It's not just I off track. No. I'm getting back on track. Anyway, I started writing probably just with the scene of Yang in the bar, and it probably, if I remember correctly, it went into Yang and Blake and dealing with that, and then it would have branched off into what had happened a little bit before then, what happened at the end of it. And that's how I do all of them, is that I'll get an idea for a scene, like Blake waking up to Yang in her place making. That was one of the things that, yeah, Blake waking up the first time. I've done way too many morning scenes. I need to stop doing them. I promised myself doing that a while back. I was not going to do another morning scene.
It's to me, whatever works for those particular scenes. Mornings are a good time to get things out. I'm personally a big fan of incoherent.
People wake up. Yeah. I think it's that people wake up, and that it's something that you have to do, and it's a good way to end the previous chapter if the person isn't going to keep doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to stop doing it because I'm doing too many of them. But the first time Blake woke up, it was just the idea of how do I build a relationship that the two of them haven't had, and referencing how Yang's actions back at school still affect her life today was a good way to do that. And I did that with coffee, and it was just something that I thought of as a brief. Blake wasn't even the big coffee drinker. It's RWBY in the show, and Weiss and RWBY.
It's Weiss actually. Weiss is the big coffee drinker, and Blake drinks tea. Shout out to the director's commentary.
Oops. But no, it's the coffee scene in the show is between Weiss and RWBY. And I, in going back and editing things, may change that. I don't know.
Nah.
I'm not sure. I'll think about it, but
I say leave it.
One way or the other. Yeah, I may change it or something. I don't know. It's a good scene, and I like it, and it worked well. And then that fed into the next one. It's like, all right, fine. Yang's still there. Yeah, Yang's going to make it this time. So, and it's just what appeals to me as a joke, and what seems to be humorous, what seems that it would be funny, what seems like it would be touching. I try to write so that anything I write causes the emotion in me writing it that I want it to have the effect on the person reading it. So if I'm writing something sad, it had better make me sad while I'm reading it, or writing it, and then reading it back to proofread. If it doesn't do that, then I need to fix it so that it can have that effect on other people.
All right. That is a good one. And up next this is actually my favorite, and this is not me being biased at all, but this is actually my favorite user-submitted question. This comes to us from Scott McIlveen, who also made the intro for this video. For Cody Talks Fanfiction, but it is, what do you do to get ready to write?
I turn on my computer. That's what it comes down to, is that it's not a process so much for me as me getting into the mood to write. And it really comes down to me being at the computer and not having something else to do. If I get distracted, which is the unfortunate part, and then I won't be able to get back to it. So it's basically just me. If I like to listen to music while I do it. I have a writing music thing, but it's more of just the act of sitting down, looking at the text, and just writing. And I wanted to post something before this, and it'll end up being posted probably after this, unfortunately. But
This comes out on Wednesday, by the way.
I might make it before then. It'll be on archive, probably not fanfic.
Oh,
So
well.
I get to edit it soon enough. But it's the next one in the little Ruby and Snow thing. I need to write the intro to that, unfortunately. And I think the ending's okay, but I need to write the intro. It's my monochrome one. For my monochrome love. But no, it's it's mostly just me writing, and it's more difficult for me than I'm expressing it, but it's just that I have to convince myself to write. It's been harder lately because I have another podcast that I'm doing, and I've got other creative work that I'm working on, which is why there's been not a lot from me. And that's one of the reasons why Little Ruby and Little Snow and Ruby Rose is the one that I've been doing the most lately. It's just because it requires less planning from me. It's easier to write without having to think about it as much.
All right. Next one, and the rest of these questions are going to be questions that I spent time thinking of. Cool. What are your not going into specifics? Let's save that for when I ask questions about specifics. But what are your overall thoughts on your story? Like, what do you think of what you did?
It's a pile of shit. No. I'm self-deprecating. I'm not that self-deprecating. There's parts of it I'm really proud of. There are certain scenes and certain bits of prose that I'm really happy with. But I think it comes down to the fact that I want to write something good. And whether or not this is definitely up for debate, and it's a debate that I have with myself very frequently. But occasionally I would get I've gotten 2 or 3 comments of like, this is as good a story as any book I've ever read. I really don't mean to be mean to the people who post that, but my immediate brain reaction is, what books have you read?
I really love Barney.
No, it's not even like that. It's just like, and I really appreciate the compliment. It's incredibly nice of them to say, but I don't think I deserve it. So I have a laundry list of books in my head that are, oh, this is better than me. This guy's way better than me. This author is way better than me. This fan fiction writer is better than me.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, there are so many other people who are better than me, and it's just like, I read that, and a part of me refuses to accept it to a certain degree, but I really appreciate it. I can't say that enough, that I appreciate when people say that, but I don't know. I'm happy with kind of how Blake and Yang have gone so far. I tend to speed through things a little bit faster than I should, unfortunately, probably because of the scene way I write, but there are little bits and pieces. The shopping trip I am totally unhappy with, just because it was part of what needed to happen, but it was also something that I was going to develop into something else and then didn't, so I need to cut some of it. And I don't know. I'm kind of happy with Ruby's charge to go help Blake. I think that I got enough play out of the different way to do a chase like that, and that it wasn't too unrealistic at times. So
yeah,
I'm happier with that scene.
Going back a ways, assuming hopefully I have the right word. Self-deprecating. Well, like self-deprecating, because you said it's a pile of shit. I've been waiting this whole time.
Self-defecating, yeah.
I've been waiting this whole time to make that comment.
Just interrupt me. It's fine.
I was just like, I'm gonna let him finish. I'm not gonna interrupt him. I'm gonna let him finish his thoughts, and then I'm gonna make the joke, and it's gonna be a really dumb joke.
It's fine. Yeah. No, it's funny.
And this is actually kind of plays in the last one, but what is the one thing that you wish you could change about your story looking back on it right now? And you get one thing.
I could change. I'm in the process of rewrites. I am changing it as we speak. Slowly, but I'm changing it as we speak. There's always something. I'm not happy with the shopping trip that Ruby and Weiss did. Sorry?
You brought that up.
I know. I'm just reiterating it. I'm not happy with it. There are bits and pieces I haven't been happy with. Some of them I've actually gone back and changed. I'd like to, and I think I have fleshed out that first chapter more. Same with the second.
I knew I should have reread it.
No, it's fine.
Before coming into this.
At some point, I'm going to do the big announcement of I have rewritten everything and here it all is. I'm not sure if I actually posted the rewrites yet. So,
You posted
But
them on Archive, not on Fanfiction.
no, I post at the same time if I
Oh,
can.
all right. So much for that joke.
The only time difference is if I have to write, and the only time difference is if I either, and it'll depend on which one goes. If I finish something and then have to add a scene that I can't post on fanfic by following their rules, then fanfic comes first, then I write the scene, and then it goes on archive.
Yep.
If I write it with the scene, archive goes first, then I cut it out, edit so that it'll work on fanfiction, and then I put it on fanfiction. Little Snow and Ruby Rose has been like that just because I write it with the scene in, and then I have to cut it out and make it age appropriate for fanfiction.
Yep. Which is weird. I actually never knew about those guidelines, that there were more guidelines about that until...
There's a ton of guidelines.
I skipped them all.
I know, most people do, but I didn't want this deleted, and I like to follow the rules, and Archive lets me do whatever I want, and Archive lets me respond to people's comments. And that's one of the things that I really like about Archive is that I can publicly respond to people's comments as opposed to just sending them personal messages.
I used to just include them at author's notes at the beginning of chapters, and then I gave up because those made them stupidly long.
And I don't like the idea of interrupting the story to respond to a question. I like to respond to as many people as possible, but I love those comments being public because then other people can read them, and they don't. If they can answer if I didn't answer to a question, they can read that answer, or they could respond to me again, something like that. Going back to what would I change? I need to change the Weiss Ruby arc that's in the story, and how, not necessarily the beginning of it, but definitely how it ended. Or not how it ended, but how they got into a relationship of some kind in the first place. Tequila and Roses is fine. I don't feel the need to change that too much, but the midway point, I'd like to stretch that out so that there's more agonizing between the both of them over what the hell's going on. And then I'd like to change the, I'd like to change the scene in which they solve some of their issues.
Solve.
Yeah, well...
Domination.
Ruby gets out her anger.
Domination.
I'd like to go back and change that scene so it can be more obvious that Ruby is dealing with her own anger at having been violated in a certain way, having her trust broken by Weiss, and dealing with that anger of somebody that she absolutely trusted betraying her in a certain way. And I'd really like to go back and change that. The problem is that I wrote myself into a corner, and I was trying to figure a way to write myself out of a corner. And it kind of works, and it kind of doesn't, and I need to fix it.
Two things I would like to say. So I just picture you like tracing with your pencil into a corner, and then being stuck in there.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's where we're going to go off of that. Thank you. That's exactly what happened to a certain degree, is that I wrote Tequila and Roses, I wrote some of the rest of it, and the simple fact is that Weiss really broke Ruby's trust. And in almost any other situation, that would have been way more of a bad ending. And I didn't want it to be. I wanted the two of them to be happy and all lovey-dovey and stuff, and I couldn't figure out a way to get to that. And it ended up with me being the fact that in Ruby's somewhat addled mind, that what she needed to do to get the anger out was to hurt Weiss as much as she'd hurt her emotionally. And I need to fix it. I need to figure out a way to make it better, make it more clear, make it more... Because the Ruby that I wrote does not like being angry at Weiss. She doesn't want to keep being angry at Weiss. She's furious, but she doesn't want to be. And if Weiss had talked to her and been honest about things beforehand, Ruby would have responded to Weiss pretty amicably. Like, if Weiss had told Ruby straight out that she loved her, Ruby probably would have been okay with it. But that's not what happened. So it's a combination of finding out that the person who you really do care for is in love with you, that you kind of return their feelings, and at the same time that they did something that you are having a really hard time forgiving. And I think I bit off more than I could chew. and I need to go back and try to work on that more.
Yeah, I was the of tequila and it's not of tequila and roses. I don't know why I was going to say that. The tequila and roses. God damn it! The tequila and roses story arc was probably my favorite part of the story. It was pretty grabbing initially. I didn't like how it ended. Not from the standpoint of the of not being aggressive enough or apparent enough. I didn't like the way that RWBY had gone about it. Listening to you explain it, though, it actually makes a lot more sense now.
That's the problem, is that in my head, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And the concept of it may make sense, but that doesn't matter. What needs to make sense is it on the page.
That is the hardest part of writing.
That is. And I had at least one other person contact me on fanfic where they were asking, like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I explained what I was trying to get for, and they're like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It doesn't count. I have to make it work on the page. And
yeah.
That may be one of the things of why it's going as slowly as it's going.
What is your favorite individual piece of your story?
To write, Blake and Yang. Just Blake and Yang are easy to write. Like, it's
banter is so natural. It's so easy.
Not just the banter, but it's just like the two of them together is really easy to write. The two of them caring about each other and wanting and actually being willing to talk, a little bit of awkwardness, dealing with stuff. It's not necessarily that it's the easiest part to write, because I'm always trying to go back and make it better, but it's the most fun to write. Like, those are the scenes that I come out writing them, I'm grinning, especially the morning ones that I can't write anymore because I'm going to hit myself if I do. There are some really sweet scenes that I was happy with that, even if they're not written the best, they make me happy to have been able to go back and read them again.
Warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, warm and fuzzy. The warm and fuzzies. That's the warm and fuzzy lemon taste.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you want to eat a fuzzy lemon or a warm one for that matter. Neither of those sound good.
I think of it like a warm and fuzzy lemon cake or something like it. Like
jeez.
Nice warm, right out of the oven.
That sounds so disgusting.
A warm lemon cake? Lemon cakes are great.
Well, okay, yeah, lemon cake in general. I'm just thinking of it being fuzzy. Yeah.
No, it's the fuzzy feeling inside that you get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you eat a fuzzy lemon cake.
What was the next question?
Right. You often do a lot of sex scenes that get edited out of fan fiction. What makes you think that it is time to do one? / how natural does it have to feel? And further explaining onto that one, it's just kind of like, from what I can gather, because I don't go into archive. Like, I'm not around the story for that reason. So I just skip over those. And you do a good job at making me feel like I didn't really miss much of anything. You can definitely tell when it's edited out, because all of a sudden there will be a pretty drastic time jump, and then all of a sudden.
But those time jumps are actually, I stole those time jumps part and parcel from other things that also have similar scenes, where you'll have people get into a position in which they have sex, but they don't want to, and you're not, in those cases, they're not writing something erotic, so it's not about having a sex scene, it's about the fact that these two characters have sex.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that you get in a lot of, like, older, let's say 80s movies, something like that, where you'll have the camera politely pan up to the curtain in the corner, and it's always at an angle, and it's away from the two people as they're kissing and making out, still fully clothed, but it's just going to pan away. That's what my time jump is for.
Yeah.
And I try to make that as smooth as possible, but I just...
You can. I mean, in that instance, you really can't, because it is a significant amount of time that you can tell. A significant amount of physical activities did happen in between then and the start and the end.
I can make it flow better. I need to make it flow better.
Nah,
I've read things.
I think it flows fine. I think it flows fine. But from what I can gather, though, there's a lot of really aggressive things. Like,
There's one particularly aggressive thing. The other ones are a little bit better.
The other one's a little bit better, but from what I can gather, I only actually went to archive after kind of seeing the response, because I like to look at the reviews sometimes. After seeing the response to that chapter, I was curious about what the hell had actually happened. That other people were like, man, you got to go to archive, and I did, and I regret that decision. But
I'm sorry. I need to... Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I need to go back. Anyway, what was the specific question for this part?
Basically, these are very, from what I can gather, these are more aggressive sex scenes that get edited out of.
No, that is the really only aggressive one. Everything else, it is it really the only aggressive one? Yeah. The one with that one with Weiss and RWBY is very aggressive for the reasons that we've gone over earlier.
Let's just call it domination.
Yeah, fine, domination.
We all have internet here.
Angry sex is how it's labeled on the archive one. Um, but it comes down to really just anyway. It doesn't matter. We've gone over it. But yeah, that's the only one. Everything else is. There's a reason why, and the archive label has a bunch of tags. Happy sex and angry sex are both in there for good reason. Most of the other ones are very, at least when I tried to write them, very happy, very gentle scenes. Um, there's one that I'm kind of happy with, which is Blake being very awkward about trying to take the lead with Yang and being annoyed with the fact that she's having difficulty with it. And some of that is in the fanfic one. It's edited down to be appropriate, but some of it's in the fanfic one. The only thing you're really missing between the two versions is the acts themselves.
Yeah.
Apart from that, they're almost the same.
So what really does? So kind of in this one,
Yeah.
it's getting edited out for a reason. As too lewd, too aggressive, too whatever. It's getting edited out for a reason.
Mostly just the yeah. Sorry. The okay. Here we go. The version on archive is rated explicit, which is their equivalent of NC-17.
Yeah.
Which is what it refers to as something that has a large amount of sexual content. M does not have the M rating does not have that, and if you read fanfiction guidelines, they don't openly want you to post things that are. They don't want you to post things that are like that. There's a reason why they say that we don't allow NC-17 content, yada yada yada, on our site, which is fine. It's their site and they have the right to request that, but it is one of the major repositories for people's fanfic, so I just edit it down to be M rated.
The hell is Heated Excitement still doing up then?
Heated Excitement?
It's a story. I might cut this out.
Oh, no. It's not that you can't post it there. It's that technically if they find it and people complain and people point it out, they'll take it down.
And
I think in my case, my personal opinion is that I don't like censorship in general, even if it's content censorship or age-based censorship. And I am of the opinion that if something happens in a situation, that it shouldn't necessarily be ignored or covered up. These characters are having sex, and I think I address it in a more or less appropriate manner. More or less. And when I do tend to write the scenes, the idea behind some of it is that the sex scene should also inform on the character, or the characters themselves. It should inform on their personalities. It should be a extension of them, because sex is a part of all human existence to a certain degree, especially after a certain age. It's just part of life. So, it's not always just something that you can pan out halfway through, come back, and the two are lying in bed, the guy's smoking a cigarette with a beaker of scotch or whatever you want to call it, and the woman's panting going, oh, that was so good. It's like, you can't always just cut to that, or like two people at the end. I like the idea that you can develop characters in a situation like that, like you would if you were developing them during an action scene.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, it's smut. So, people enjoy it just for the smut stuff. There's a reason why at least one of my things says, this is where the smut starts. If you just want to read that, cut to there. And I think that to each their own. And if you don't want to read it with that, go ahead, read it on fanfic, because it's not going to be there. Yeah. Like, it still happens, and I try to indicate that that's what happens, but I'm not going to make you deal with the issue. I think that gives people who want to read it with the stuff, go read it on archive. If you don't want to read it with stuff, read it on fanfic. And then I'm not violating either site's codes, and the different viewers get their own place to access it.
Mm-hmm. Couple of things that I want to go back to there. By a couple, I mean two. I had more, but I think I forgot. Or I think I had more, but I forgot them. The first thing is, can you imagine if that's how sex worked in real life? Like, it just all of a sudden, your view just shifted up to the corner, and then it shifted back down, and it was over.
It's like, what the fuck just happened?
It's like, I thought this was supposed to be great. That'd be the weirdest thing.
I'm a fan of the BioWare treatment, more or less, in that they show the starting of the scene, but they're not going to show you openly having sex in a video game. But this is smut, so there you go.
And the other
It's
thing,
something I wanted to write. It's something I enjoy writing. So
yeah,
there.
and the other thing I actually remembered one other thing. Sex may be a part of people's lives at a certain age. I don't have to worry about it. I'm good. And
Yeah. Yeah.
then the last thing, I can't remember what it was. So carry on with your point while I remember.
No, it's it also falls under the line of what is it? The trope is girl on girl is hot. It's one of the things that like yeah exactly. Whereas it's a trope, not necessarily accurate, but it is something that American media at the very least is really into. Is the fact that girl on girl is both a little bit taboo, but at the same time, oh, it's so sexy and so cute and all that stuff. But I like the idea of just having individuals who are attracted to the same gender having genuine relationships.
I don't care if what your gender is, in my opinion, as long as
Yeah,
it
that's
works.
fine. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm okay with too. That's one of the reasons why the little Snow and Ruby is anyway. Um,
I feel like
that
I have to
actually
read
came.
that story now.
You might have to read it on fanfiction. Read it on fanfiction.
It's on fanfiction?
Yeah,
Alright.
the censored version is on fanfiction. It's inspired by a series of artwork made by a a RWBY fan artist who I don't know her. I don't know her safe for work name. If you want, I can tell you who I will say who it is because I do like her work. It's really good.
Say who it is, and it doesn't really. I mean, I have you on here.
I could also just look it up.
Well,
That's
just
the other thing.
we'll just say who it is, and they can figure it out if they want to go look up her work.
Yeah, I also want to. I'd like to shoot people to her safe for work page, and then they can go look for the not safe for work
Nah.
page if they want. It's Queen Futa is her not safe for work name. She does a lot of Yuri pairings with
Futa.
with penises. um, but her art's also really good, and I like the way that she tends to draw her characters. So I was kind of inspired by some of the monochrome stuff she did, and I thought it'd be fun to write a story like that.
I think I've actually
Plus,
seen
the
those.
fact that I'm basing it off of an original fairy tale story from a long time ago means I don't have to worry about plot. I know where everything's going.
That's actually another really nice thing that we have working within the realm of fan fiction. The world is built for us. We just have to determine certain things about it. The world's
Bits
already
and
built.
pieces. Some of them are a little bit different, especially people who are doing stuff where the entire cast is OC, but it's based in an existing world.
God
There's a lot of
damn,
zombie
that's
stuff
hard.
like that.
I actually have like a survival apocalypse story
Yep.
now.
To be fair, and this is part of it, so much of, like, so many movies and TV shows and books and stories that we read are recycled, just because there are certain characters that are so well known that they're easy to do. Almost all of those, to a certain degree, are fan fiction. Every Sherlock Holmes story or every Sherlock Holmes book that's written that's not quote unquote canon by the Doyle estate or whoever's currently owning Sherlock Holmes.
Somebody. Britain.
Exactly. Yeah. All those works are technically fan fiction. They're just really well written, published fan fiction.
Benedict
by people who love
Cumberbatch.
those characters, especially for things like Sherlock Holmes or Star Wars. The entire expanded universe, to a
Jeez.
certain degree, is fan fiction, or a lot of the Star Trek novelizations. If you're a big Star Trek fan who went on to work on them, a lot of comic books these days. If you were a fan of the comic books in the old days and now you're going back and you got hired by the industry and you're writing, technically it's fan fiction. It's just really good, published, authorized fan fiction.
It's the best kind of fan fiction. You're actually getting paid.
Yeah, and that's part of it. Is just the idea that if hell, RWBY is technically fan fiction because it's based in the world of Halo.
You know what? You're correct. I never thought about it that way before.
And unfortunately, fan fiction to a certain degree gets a bad rap because what's counted as fan fiction is what's counted as fan fiction tends to be some of the things that aren't necessarily the best written. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we have a
whereas
really
if you-
bad image.
Yeah, some people do. Some people have a decent image of it. Some people, the fact is that, and I've gotten a couple posts of this, like, usually it'll be something along the lines of like your stories. I like reading your story. There's a lot of works out here that aren't very good or something like that, and I kind of always want whenever somebody gets that to be like, okay, here you should read this, you should read this, you should read this. These are all the good stories that I've read that I like that are from this particular fandom. Read these because these authors are really good and they deserve attention. But there are people who are writing either quickly or they're writing as a learning exercise.
Yeah, then that's a
and
big thing
they're
that's
new
common
writers.
in fan
Yeah.
fiction.
And that's absolutely great. People should keep writing. They should practice. And especially for my stories, you go back and read my early stories. They are terrible. They are awful, horrible things that I should take down. And it's not like they're abhorrent. It's just that they're horribly written. It's bad. It's openly bad.
But you're like
And
attached to them at this point. They're so bad.
I'm
it's
attached to them. The fact that they still exist. That's the only. I
Really?
haven't deleted them because I know I don't have them anywhere else, and I don't want to deal with them. So I admit their existence, but I don't. Yeah, it's just like,
Give all of their titles and
Yeah.
what websites we can find them on.
oh, they're all in Fanfiction. They're all in
right.
Fanfiction. They're under my account. You can find them. I changed all of the uncompleted ones to completed and then walked away. I'm not dealing with them. I
Gun
don't
in your
wanna-
mouth.
I don't want to go back. I don't want to edit them. I don't want to fix them. I don't care enough about them to do it anymore. Unfortunately, it's been too much time, and I'm done. It's not. I didn't do a very good job starting with it, or I did the best job I could at that time. When I was younger, and I was writing. I'm not that old. I'm not old.
Are you
Thank
40?
I'm not 40. Fuck no. But they're from a couple years ago, and I don't connect to the guy who wrote them the same way that he connected to them, and I just don't want to deal with them anymore. So I don't. Right. I was gonna look up that artist.
Oh, you were, but they can go to her page and see if they can figure it out.
I would like to say the safer work one.
All right.
just so that-
Well, I will say I kind of regret saying this, but I immediately was like, I think I've seen some of those before. I kind of
Yeah.
regret saying that now, but
She goes by Monica, but I'm trying. Dashing Ice Cream on Tumblr. Dashing Ice Cream.
from what was it, Futa Queen or something? Queen
Queen
Futa.
Futa, yeah.
Queen Futa
Uh,
to Dashing Ice Cream.
Dashing Ice Cream. Well, because that's the one that's appropriate. But she does
That's
a lot
such a
of Yuri
huge
art.
jump in topics.
She does a lot of Yuri art, and she does
I
quite a
couldn't
bit
tell.
of RWBY art as well as Vocaloid. But the RWBY art is really good,
It is.
which is nice. And I like good artists. And just because some of her work is not safe for work doesn't necessarily mean that it's not good to point out. So yeah, if you guys would like to go see some good Yuri work or just really pretty RWBY art, go check out Dashing Ice Cream.
I'll drop
You
in
can go.
both links in the description below for whatever floats your boat.
Just label one is not safe for work.
I'm not going to do that.
Please label one that's not safe
Based
for
off
work.
the
It's kinda
fact that the
obvious,
link that it's going to say Queen Futa and then Dashing Ice Cream next to them,
Just
I'm
in
going to
case someone
assume that they can
didn't
figure
know.
it out.
just in case someone didn't know.
If you were a big enough idiot to not understand that Queen Futa is the NSFW version and Dashing Ice Cream is the SFW
Yeah.
version, you deserve whatever punishment is coming your way.
I'm not gonna disagree with it whether it's fair. It's just like, yeah.
And I'm also lazy, so
yeah, true.
fewer characters for me.
That'll work. True. Yeah. I just her art's really good, and she definitely deserves the praise for it. So it's a her, yeah. But Monica's art is really good. She deserves praise. So
Not King Futa. All right. I don't remember how we got on this tangent, but I feel like there. Oh wait.
go.
There was actually something else I was going to bring up. It definitely is a noticeable thing with RWBY fanfiction. I don't know about other fanfiction in particular. I'm terrible. I only read and write RWBY fanfiction because I'm a loser.
fine.
But
no, it's a fandom that you like. And
yeah.
it's perfectly fine if you
and
stay in the fandom.
it's the fandom I'm most attached to. But overall, though, it is with RWBY fanfiction. I remember changing two of my stories, A Harsh Reality and What Good Is Love, from T to M because I included in a very, very terrible lemon scene because I don't know what the hell I'm doing with lemon scenes. I don't understand sex and I don't understand girls, so I'm like way out of my league. But I remember changing it, and my favorite thing to do is to look at the traffic graph for those chapters because it'll be like at the time it was like 400, 400, 400. Low 500, 400, 400, 400, 400, low 500, 700, low 400, low 400. Like you could tell people were just skipping to that chapter to
some
read
do,
it.
Yeah.
It's about
And
300
that's fine.
people
I mean,
do.
if that's what people want to read, I don't judge. Hell, I wrote them. Why would I judge you for reading them? But
I'm a judgmental person.
I'm. It's a rule I have is that I do not judge. I don't judge the characters I write, which is the other thing. I try to understand them and not judge them, because if I judge them, then it's going to turn out to be me having a commentary on them rather than me trying to write them, and that's different. So I try to be good about that.
What was the next question that I had? Last one. Okay. Your first sex, and this is mostly for me. Your first sex scene between Weiss and RWBY has been called into question as potentially rapey. What do you qualify it as? Is it rape or is it not rape? Because it's definitely not consensual.
Oh, I really don't want to get into the complications of what does qualify as rape, just because that question that conversation in and of itself is incredibly problematic and incredibly it's an incredibly sensitive topic to talk about, and it's insensitive to a certain degree to talk about it with people who've experienced something like that.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
In the case that, as far as I will go with this, is that in that situation, neither of those characters were technically capable of giving what would be called informed consent, although Weiss was definitely in a more able position than RWBY was. And again, I try not to judge the characters, but the way that RWBY definitely sees it as a violation of her trust in Weiss. It was definitely something that in her mind is absolutely unacceptable. That was just wrong. And in Weiss also feels that way to a degree. Like it just there, I need to go back and make this more clear. But Weiss feels incredibly guilty about what happened.
Yeah,
Horrific guilt.
that was a great part of the story, by the way.
She.
All right.
I'm no, it's okay. I'm trying to phrase this as accurately as possible so that I don't put my own foot in my mouth. What Weiss. Here's my suggestion: read it. Decide how you want to feel about it for yourself, because Weiss is incredibly guilty about what she did, but she still did it, and RWBY is coming to forgive her for it under some circumstances, and partly because she cares enough about Weiss that she is trying to forgive her for what happened despite what happened. And it's, it's complicated, and I don't really want to get into it as much just because of... Let me put it this way. What Weiss did was wrong, and there's
Morally.
a reason why Weiss is very guilty about it. I'm not in any way saying that what Weiss did was okay.
Nah, that's totally fine.
Weiss feels guilty for a damn good reason. RWBY feels horribly betrayed for a damn good reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, leave it at that, and you can make your own decisions from there.
Yeah. What's your favorite chapter that you've done so far?
I'd have to remember which chapter's which. Which actually is easy to do because I have Fanfiction open at the moment.
Yeah, I can't open up Fanfiction because I got to keep it on the Skype screen.
No, that's totally. Let me see.
Well, I can, but I'll just have to edit it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Less work for me.
Sorry. I'd say you can edit
That's
this,
fine.
but then you'd have to edit it. Edit out this section. I'd have an easier time telling you what scene I'm really proud of than which chapter.
All right, I don't have that. So,
No,
what
it's fine. It's
scene
okay.
is your favorite chapter?
No. It's totally okay. I'm opening it. I'm trying to get it to go quickly. So honestly, what I need is the chapter titles, and as soon as I read that, I can. Okay, there we go. Sweet Blonde was one of the happier one. Sweet Blonde was one of the more fun ones to write for a couple reasons. Definitely just because of the fact that it was just about people being happy with each other. Yang and Blake having a first date and getting to kind of experience the idea of, having known each other forever, and then also at the same time getting to date for once. So it's a new experience with someone who you really know, who you know well, who you like, familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. And it was just something that was fun to write, and that's one of the reasons why.
Fun to read.
Yeah, it was fun to write. That's the best part of something, and that's why I do it. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, moment it loses fun, I'm like, I'm not getting paid. I'm out.
That's valid. Let's see if there was another one. Liquid lust is problematic, and we've talked about that, so we all know why.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it's supposed to be problematic, and it's what it is. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah, Sweet Blonde is dead. I like the playful side of Sweet Blonde, and it's one of the parts that I like. But also, it was all Blake and Yang, so I didn't have to deal with the White Rose time or the Tequila and Roses arc. Shock Me was fun because I got to deal with Ruby and Weiss being happy, and I didn't have to deal with them being angry at each other anymore.
Sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, it was a lot of sunshine and rainbows. And then it was also that's why. It was the one in which Blake is being incredibly awkward with Yang, and she's trying to treat Yang the way that Yang treated her, and be nice and giving and all that stuff, and she's not as used to it as Yang is. And because of that, she makes a mistake or two, and she's feels horrible about it, but Yang's just like, no, it's okay.
Internally laughing.
Yeah, well, no, it's not even that. It's just like,
not mean-spiritedly, but
it's sweet. And even if you make the mistake, Yang's fully aware that anything Blake does is not meant to hurt her.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, at least. And she wants to make sure that Blake knows that, too. And just being incredibly forgiving, being incredibly kind to each other. And that's one of the reasons why I liked writing that.
Mm-hmm.
The archive version, that scene, or pretty much any of the scenes with Blake and Yang that are in archive that aren't on fanfiction, are the exact antithesis of what you read for Ruby and Weiss. Actually, almost any scene involving Ruby and Weiss after that is also the antithesis of what happened with Ruby and Weiss that one time. The reason why I don't say it's domination is because domination is attached to the idea of a dom and a sub, which is a willing sub and a willing dom, in which the sub gives up a portion of their free will in order to feel dominated by another person, because the act of being dominated turns them on. The reason why I don't call this domination sex is because Weiss does not want to give up that level of control to Ruby. It's not about her enjoying the giving up of control. It's about her dealing with giving up control because she wants Ruby to forgive her. And because she feels terrible, and she feels that she deserves it. She feels that she really... It's not about, ooh, I've been a bad girl, hit me. It's, I've done something horrible, and I deserve to suffer for it. Yeah, I know. You see, you get the point. You get what the difference is.
I get the point, but just hearing you say that and...
Exactly.
It's so funny.
But you see the difference between how I kind of tried to write that and what it could have been. It's not about somebody enjoying the act of being dominated. It's about someone desperately trying to get another person to forgive them, and if that includes hitting them repeatedly, then that's what it takes.
So we'll just go ahead and say that there's probably some subset for this in Japanese porn, and we'll just carry on.
No, it's the same subset as the U.S. stuff.
I mean, well, Japan. That's a dig because Japan's in all the weird stuff.
This isn't, I think, even really much of a fetish because it's not. I wouldn't say that it's playful enough to count as domination.
And like I said, this is the one thing that I did read on Archive because a big fuss was made about this.
No, that's totally valid. It's Ruby. Ruby's trying to work out her anger, and I need to make it so it feels less like a domination scene and more of someone who's just really mad at her, and is trying everything she can do to just get out that anger, and I need to fix it. I need to go back and make it better. Yeah,
but you know, it is a weird thing to say there, so I get why you're not calling it domination.
No, it's fine. It's just I'm a fan of a word having a specific meaning, and even if it has more than one, I like to think that word has a specific meaning.
Yeah, you've gotten really into the etymology of words here.
Some, but one of the things that really pisses me off is when a word is used in multiple fashions that are absolutely for no reason, like liberal in politics, drives me insane. And it does. There's no reason to get into it. It's just that it gets used by multiple people for very different reasons and meaning very different things.
Uh, so your story was previously featured on the ever so famous plot twist episode of Cody Talks Fanfiction.
Yes, yes.
So, what gave you the idea slash inspiration for adding in this much plot after such a fluff start?
This much plot, as in like 2 chapters.
Well, okay.
It was
to
coming.
be fair,
No. That's fat. That's yeah. It was coming around in, I think, Sweet Blonde, in that I was adding in whatever had happened with Adam,
yeah.
which I haven't written on and published, so I'm not going to go too deep into that.
Publish
but
it.
I'm sorry.
Oh wait, no. Talk about it. That's the wrong thing.
No, I'll publish it and then I'll talk about it.
Eh.
No, it wasn't. That's Liquid Lust.
Looks like part 2. Look forward to that.
Talking. Okay, yeah. It was. Was it Liquid Lust? It might have been Liquid Lust. Oh, no, it was Hangman's Blood.
Adam's death was referenced very early on in the story. I do remember that. By the way,
it was referenced very early on, but Hangman's Blood is where she sees Adam on the street.
You're right.
And that was me. I think at the time I was toying with the idea of bringing Adam back and dealing with Blake's relationship with Adam and how that had happened and how that affected who she became and how she was with Yang. And I had a couple scenes in mind. I'm not sure about using them or not. And when I can get the story moving again, that'll be when we find out what's going, or when you guys find out what's going on with that. But I needed a way to bring Adam back in, and that was a way I did it, and I'm not sure if that's the best way.
Well, we are not either, but that's just because we don't know what way that is yet. So
yeah, no, it's like I wanted to reintroduce Adam, and I needed a reason for stuff to happen, and then after that, it was just like, what do I write? What can I write? And I wanted something different. I wanted something that wasn't just fluff, that wasn't smut. I just wanted something that would push people forward, and I needed a way to do that, and I found it. And I have scenes that are either almost all written or half written for Weiss stuff and for Blake stuff, and I couldn't find a way to bring them in, and this was me trying to get to those scenes.
All right. Next question. But anyways, your story, it was in the top 15 for a period, just in case, depending on how much I cut out. Your story, it was in the top 15 for a period of time. It's been top 20 forever. It's currently 26th, so that's still really good given the fact there's 2.7, 2.8 thousand.
Updated in 3 months.
Yeah, you haven't updated in roughly. Tim Duncan was a rookie in the NBA.
Oof.
Dude's old.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And the best part of that is I don't watch basketball, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Tim Duncan is old in basketball.
I don't know what we're talking about.
He's really old. Just go with it.
Okay, basketball's that thing with the orange ball, right?
Sure.
Okay.
So, are you surprised that it has received this much attention and that it has gotten this popular?
Kind of. Yeah. How do I put it? I think the thing that really set me apart is that there's a collection called Best of RWBY Fanfiction, and when someone put that in it, I was really honored. And it's not even for no reason, because it's just somebody who created a collection of, like, these are the fanfics I like. The fact that somebody did that...
I think I know that guy.
Oh, really? Is it you?
No, it's not me. I'm actually an admin on it, I think, if I remember correctly. Dude that runs that, Rooster Teeth Fanfic.
Somebody putting me on it just felt really... It felt all warm and fuzzy.
It's so satisfying to see that your fan fiction is in a community. It's the weirdest thing.
Like, oh, you liked it. You really liked it. Oh, like, you guys are cute. I'm happy that I'm at the point where the views for one of my stories is more than the words I've written for the story itself. What interests me is that Premium Well is paid a lot more attention than Little Snow and Ruby Rose.
Yeah, I noticed that. There was a big number drop.
Which is something that I wrote that I was going to, like, oh, this will be for something for teenagers, or like I'll make, or not for teenagers. I want it to be rated teen to be appropriate for other audiences, and maybe they'll read it and come over to this. It did not work. And I guess people just didn't respond to it the same way, or they didn't like the way that I tried to write fairy tale, which is fine. It was another experiment,
Yeah.
but was not people were not a fan. It's
No.
okay. I'm sorry. The third chapter will be going up soon of the story no one likes. I apologize.
So if you don't like it, go fuck yourself.
No, it's not even that. It's like, hey, you guys don't like it. I'm sorry.
That didn't show
I'm
up.
gonna keep writing it. It may also just be fan fiction. I'm not sure. It may also be that my audience for Premium Well only really is interested in M pieces.
Yep.
So,
You are
in
not
that
wrong.
case, yeah. Oh, be nice.
Listen,
Anyway.
that is just a majority of the audiences that gets pulled into some of these stories.
That's true.
That's like a
And
good
it is-
100.
It is rated M, and you have to physically search for M. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess if people are looking
just
for
search
it and
for
they find
all.
it, it'll be because Anyway, it's incredibly flattering. It's incredibly flattering whenever I get a comment that people liked it. It's incredibly flattering when someone gives me a comment, says why they liked it, or something that they think I could fix about it, or something that they didn't like about it. And constructive criticism always makes me really happy. But it's nice. I don't think I deserve to have people that happy with my story, but I appreciate it. So, there's that.
Next question. When we talked, our little 8 private message long. Wait.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say screw that sentence because it failed miserably.
Yeah, when we talked before.
When we talked before, you mentioned the story being an experiment. How many times have you just randomly thought of an idea and based an entire chapter around it?
It was more an experiment in the fact that I didn't really. Well, let me go back. I had not written something like this before, and I thought it would be fun, and it has been. I think one of the things that I like about the archive version is that the smut section is a little rewarding to write because I tend to write happy scenes, so I get the nice happy buzz in my head for writing something happy.
Clap along if you feel.
Exactly, you know. But at the same time, it was an experiment to see if I could write something that had if I could write a Yuri romance, and it hasn't turned out too badly.
I think it's turned out great.
How do I the one of the interesting comments that I got from people was that the switch over to Blake being attacked was so sudden that they weren't expecting it.
Yep.
And some people's comments were that it was really sudden and it was still really exciting and interesting and yada yada yada. Some people were like, I wasn't expecting this. You threw this at it randomly and it really doesn't work for me. Both of those are perfectly fine and it's perfectly valid. I wanted to see, because the thing is that Blake has spent the last 2 or 3 days in a build up to what has become just this shining moment of happiness where she is with Yang in every sense of the word. Like the two of them are she is incredibly happy with where her life is right now. And apart from seeing what she thought could have been Adam that one time, she's really happy with life.
She's on cloud 9 with Katy Perry.
And then someone takes a machine gun and blows up that cloud in the space of about 10 seconds.
The idea of a machine gun being explosive.
Blowing a hole in the cloud so you fall through? Yeah.
Oh, you said blew up the cloud. I'm just picturing that. Never mind.
Somebody just blew a hole in what she was doing, and she's at home. She's in a place that she feels secure. She's been incredibly happy, and shit just happens. And I kind of was trying to see if I could get the audience to feel the same sense of surprise, of urgency, of anger at having her happiness disturbed by this. And I wanted to see if I could get the audience to feel the same way as I was trying to write Blake is feeling. For some people, it seemed to work. For some people, it didn't. And I'd like to try to retool it a little bit. I'm not going to mess with it too much for the rewrite, but I've got a prologue that's more action-heavy, so I'd like the idea of people being aware of the fact that there's going to be more action.
God, inserting a prologue into a story after 13 chapters. I don't know if I'd have the patience to do that, to replace all of them.
It's not hard. It's really easy because you just re-upload the documents that are in there and
Not to me.
Just reassign them to the chapters. I'm not taking chapters down and moving them over. All I'm doing is reassigning which chapter you pick when.
Well, yeah, even
at
that though, that's still tedious work.
It'll take me about 5 minutes to do.
Ah,
It's not that
show
hard.
off.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not hard. It's just that like you have to be willing to bump things up, and that's one of the reasons why it's like I looked at this. It'll take me 5 minutes to do that. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. I haven't finished the prologue, which is why it hasn't gone up yet. I want. It's one of those things like I've been really busy with the other creative work that I've done, so
Yeah.
I haven't had as much time to write as I'd like. Anyway, what was the next question, or the question that you asked earlier?
You kind of answered it. That it was the one about experimenting.
Oh, experimentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. It's can I write this? Okay. Can I write a situation like this? The entire Weiss RWBY thing was can I make this end well and work?
Ish.
And the answer is kind of. Um, can I make it work and end well? Maybe. Can I make it read well? Can I do this thing with Blake and Yang? That worked. Can I do this thing with Blake and Yang? Not as much. Can I do something where one person is really being led by someone who's much more experienced? Done. Can I do something where that person tries to be a little bit more active? Tried that. Can I try something where I can get the audience to have a similar affective response to an event as a character? In some ways it worked. In some ways it worked and in a bad way. So it's just been a constant experiment of how can I play with these characters? Can I create drama in this situation? Can I create relationships in this without having the structure of a procedural or something else to build a relationship around? Can I just focus on the relationship?
Next question. You've already. Jesus, I just lost my voice. Hang on. Next question, you have actually already answered through prior discussion. And I'm going to tell you what it was, but I will tell you this. You did answer it, so I don't feel the need to cover this. It was, from what I can gather, Tequila and Roses was a story before you wrote Premium Well. Did that serve as a base zero? As in, did you go into writing Premium Well knowing that you were going to hit on those points? You've already answered that, though. You've already said that kind of, you modified it a little bit to fit in everything. And
I wrote it, and then when I moved it over, I modified it again.
yeah, so
So
I just wanted to let everybody know this was a question.
mostly it wasn't modifying. It was mostly expanding because the original version started with them just getting to the apartment.
Yeah.
And the new version takes them from the bar.
Yeah.
And goes through a little bit more backstory and puts in a little bit more context.
I included that,
the
though,
ending's
because I just want to let everybody know I can count. There are 17 questions here. But that being said, you know, I had to draw the line. So
What's the next one?
and these are kind of like the last two very general things.
No
What
worries.
is the question you're asked the most?
I don't think I get asked the same. I don't get asked the same question the same way twice, which is great. Honestly, because I love getting questions. I love getting reviews. Send me reviews, please. Tell me that you hated something. Tell me that something sucked. Tell me that you liked something. I allow anonymous reviews. So just if you're anonymous and you're reading the story, if you don't have an account, leave something anyway. I will read it. I won't be able to respond to you publicly
It's always the
on
worst.
Fanfiction. I can't respond to you publicly on Fanfiction. I'm really sorry. If you have an account and you post something, I will respond to you personally.
I always
if
feel
it's
so
something
terrible.
if you have a question. If you want to go over to Archive of Our Own and you leave me a comment there on any chapter, I will respond to you personally and it'll be public. So, and you can do that anonymously. You can do it with something else. If you want to send me a private message, go ahead. I will still respond to you personally. And that's the attitude that I have, is that I will always answer questions. I think the most, it's not really a question, the most comment I get is that I really liked this or I really thought this was funny. I'm going to try to go back to the very first stuff.
You can check I should have checked Archive of Our Own for any good questions. Damn.
I could pull something up if you want. I'm already.
We've been going for an hour and 43. I don't know how much of this is going to cut out.
You're probably tired.
No, I'm fine. I stay up till like 4, so.
There were a couple people asking where the uncut version was, and that was easy enough to tell them, and I made sure I put beginnings at certain things to tell people where those were.
You included that in the ANs.
Yeah, I have now. They weren't there originally.
They were. I thought they were.
No, they probably were by the time that you started reading.
I started reading like chapter 7.
That would be why.
Oh.
At that point, they would have been on there.
Damn.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Sorry, I'm going back through and trying to find like the most question that I've gotten. I think the most common questions would be what happened with the RWBY Weiss thing, There were a couple people wondering if the girl in one of the chapters was Cinder, which it's not, but I understand the confusion.
Yeah.
I fixed it, so it shouldn't do that again. Um, there were a couple people asking about, is Yang really coming back? Not Yang, Adam, and I'm not answering that. So
Yeah, I thought about jokingly asking you that, then I decided not to.
yeah, no, it's fine. It's like I'm flattered that you guys are interested and would ask if I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to tell you.
Bastard.
I get questions, but I've never been asked the same thing really the same way twice, and I'm happy about that because it's never a repeat question. I think that just comes down to the fact that I don't have there aren't that many people constantly asking me questions that it's going to be along the lines of like, I don't get that many questions to the point that I would actually be getting the same question more than once. So hello, everybody. It's now just you and me. You and me. We don't have the guy who's normally in charge of this, and he's not going to be back for a little while. So we get to have all fun, just the two of us. So I'm going to tell you all the horrible... No. Although it would be fun to ruin a bunch of things for you guys. Nah, I'm not going to do it. Let's see here. Seriously, that's absolutely true. If you guys... If anybody ever sends me a message or a comment, I try to respond to it if there's a question. Even if there's not, I try to respond to it and be like, just, thank you for reading, because you guys are nice enough to talk to me. Thank you for people who have done constructive criticism, because you've given me some really good stuff. I think it's pronounced Lorigo on Archive. Thank you. You know why. And you're absolutely right. And I made it clear what was going on. So thank you. I like to think I did. I need to go back and add more, but thanks. Yeah. It's really nice to hear that you guys like it. I don't think it deserves as much praise, but I really appreciate it. That's about all I can say.
This is actually the last question that I have. What is the biggest, and I'm sure that you've gotten this before too, but one of the things that happens to me that I hate, I absolutely despise it, is when people are like, hey, I'm a writer, what advice can you give me? And I hate it because I never have any good advice. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm 15 years old. But what is the biggest piece of advice that you think that you can give aspiring authors out there?
Don't ask me. If I first, don't be asking me. Ask somebody who actually has stuff published, who writes stuff really well. Ask Miles. Go talk to him, or ask an author who you really like.
Ask me. No, I'm kidding. Don't ask me.
Don't ask me. But if you are, then write. Just write, like as much as physically possible. Just keep writing, and it's the equivalent of practicing. I think it's the 30,000 hour rule or something like that. That if you do something for a certain amount of time, eventually you will get good at it. Read.
It takes you 48 hours to forget things, muscle memory wise. By the way.
Okay.
Fun fact.
Cool. But here, think of it this way. Just read a bunch of stuff that you like. Find stuff that you like, read it. Don't necessarily parrot the way that those people write, but figure out why what they do is something that you like. Just practice writing. Try out new things. Try out a new genre once in a while. And always take constructive criticism. If somebody, even if it's not constructive, if somebody's just trying to troll, take it and then maybe ask at least yourself if it's coming from a place of honesty, like this person just really didn't like it, or this person's just a jerk, because sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's from an honest place, like, I don't like your story. It's like, okay, why doesn't this guy like my story? What is it? Is it because of a personal element, or is it because I did something wrong, which sometimes happens? And just be nice to people. Don't. I mean, like, I could throw down a bunch of things that I've heard from one person or another, but don't judge your characters. Which almost all this advice isn't coming from me. It's coming from people who've given it to me, or from who I've heard from other people at one point or another, which is kind of how writing advice works. People who succeed in writing, they just write, and eventually they get published, or people pay attention to them, or something becomes so popular that people don't have a choice but to pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, what's that horrible book with all the bondage stuff?
50 Shades of Grey.
Thank you. That was if I remember correctly, that was a Twilight fan fiction.
It absolutely was. It is the single most popular fan fiction that exists, probably.
Absolutely incorrect.
Fuck.
Red versus Blue is infinitely more popular.
You know what? You are correct.
And,
I forgot about that discussion.
Or at the very least, it should be. And come on, tons of Star Wars books, tons of comic books, Avengers. Think about it. Avengers, the movie, was written by Joss Whedon, who is a comic book fan.
Yeah, that's I feel like that doesn't really count as fan fiction though, because you have to look at who employs him to do this.
No, it's totally authorized fan fiction. It's funded fan fiction. It's published fan fiction, but it's still a fan writing about stuff that he loves.
But is Miles writing Red versus Blue now? Is that fan fiction for Red versus Blue?
I would count it under the same definition. Yeah, it's canon. It's absolutely canon. It's part of what it is. But it's let me put it this way: just because you're writing something that occurs in a world that came out of somebody else's head, whether or not you're published and doing it, whether or not you're authorized to do it, you're passionate about the world. And by the just like fan fiction by fans. If you're a fan of the world that somebody else created and then you're writing something that happens in it, you could easily count it as fan fiction. So,
alrighty.
Yeah, it's a definition of the term. It's not what people tend to take it as, but yeah, it counts to a certain degree. Anyway. Especially with something like 50 Shades of Grey, which then got published as something else. So
Twilight.
Yeah.
Really glad that they at least changed the theme to it. Well, that is actually going to conclude this episode of Cody Talks Fanfiction. Congratulations. You now have the longest episode of Cody Talks Fanfiction, unless I edit out about 50 or so minutes of this.
Yeah, you'll probably get about a half hour that you'll be able to edit out.
Yep, and even at that, it's still going to be the longest by a fair amount.
If I can say something,
yes,
just at the end as a thing, thank you to Canadian Rifleman for the edits for the reviews that you did. You wrote some really really long ones. Thank you, Cody on fanfiction. It is really nice, really cool. Thank you.
Seen that dude around.
Yeah, he posted some really nice stuff. And thank you, Larigo, on Archive. And there's a couple of people on Archive I just can't thank everybody, unfortunately, because you guys made some really good points, and you're really helpful. So thank you guys.
You forgot to thank God.
I'm going to be honest, and here's my problem. You're creating an entire world, and you don't give me one goddamn dragon? Really? Just one? Come on. Really? Man? Sleeping on the ball, but whatever.
Yeah, that's your only beef with God. All right, hurricanes.
My anger with God. There's not enough fantasy in this world. What's wrong with you?
There's no dragons. Hurricanes,
Why
tornadoes,
can I not
earthquakes.
use magic?
This is very...
Where are the fireballs coming from my hands?
Forget the starving children in Africa.
Bug report. I need the new update with fire from my hands.
Can you imagine if God had a software screen on us? He always ran.
It'd be fun. Like he's looking at like, oh, I got a good review day. Oh, this is a bad review day.
He's just all of a sudden he just turns up.
People.
He just turns up the fat level on like just like America. Like all of a sudden he's like, God damn it! I accidentally hit the wrong slider.
All right. Well, again, if you guys have to anybody who's ever posted a comment, thank you so much. Anybody who's ever read my story, thanks. I don't know why.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I don't know if I ever reviewed your story.
It's fine.
It's just like trying to think. I was like, because I'm just like you said, anybody who's ever read my story thinking, I'm like, you're welcome. And I'm like, wait, have I ever posted a comment?
Anyone who's ever read, anyone who's ever reviewed, anybody who has talked about it anywhere, thank you. Somebody said on the archive one that they mentioned my story on a Reddit RWBY thing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Your story actually is brought up quite a fair amount on Reddit on r/RWBY.
Really?
Yeah, there's a good fanfiction stories get referenced quite a lot on that one.
Okay, I get it. It's just like I'm surprised it would ever get mentioned anywhere. So
good story.
Thank you to everyone. You guys are really nice. Thanks.
And so that is going to conclude this week's episode of Cody Talks Fanfiction. That is actually going to include this week's episode of Cody Talks Fanfiction. I would like to thank once again, Dinas Emrys from taking time out of his schedule, out of his day, because it is day over there, to come in and say and agree to do this. I would also like to thank Karagor2, who had the idea to bring people on for an interview. And as future notes about this, this is going to be in kind of like a weird stretch area. Every 5 weeks, I'm going to be doing an interview with somebody new. Dinas, you were kind enough to be the first to agree to do this. I just realized my hand that I'm making all my numbers with is not in frame. You were kind enough to be the first to do this, but it's going to be occurring every 5 weeks. So this is episode 9, episode 14, episode 19. Why not do it on the 10s? Because that is going to be author spotlight. So stay tuned for that. That's just some future notes about the series. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, read Premium well. If you reach the end of this and you still haven't read the story, you, my friend, are a complete and total douche, and I'm sorry.
Hey! No.
Listen, I talked to you. Let's go ahead and I'm going to take a guess. Listen, you sat through an hour and let's go 28. Yeah, sure. Let's go hour 28 minutes. Let's just go. Take a half hour off. Sat through an hour and 28 long minute interview specifically about Premium Well, although oftentimes it didn't really seem like that. Specifically about Premium Well. You got to the very end of this. We spoiled a lot of things. Actually, we didn't spoil some of the bigger points of it in the later chapters.
Yeah, I was careful about it.
Even though I already said,
I would never call anybody who hasn't read my story a douche. It's just like, it's not that good. It's not that good. It's not.
I'm not calling them a douche for not reading a story.
I can't think of any story that if somebody hasn't read it, it makes them a terrible person. Like,
I'm not saying that they're a douche because they haven't read your story. I'm saying that they're a douche because they sat through like an hour and 28 long minute video about a story and they haven't even read it yet.
No.
Do you really like my content that much?
They might like you.
Correction,
they might just really
nobody.
Like listening to you. Nah.
Actually, I know.
Anyway.
But regardless, I might cut that. Whatever. That's staying in. Anyways, so like, comment, subscribe, read Premium well. Read my stuff, guys. I'm kidding. Don't actually read my stuff. And tune in next week when I'll be doing an author spotlight. Tune in 5 weeks when I'll be interviewing somebody else, assuming that all my files don't get corrupted. So, bye.